Hey everybody. Hello. Hey Shirley. Hey Arthur. Lovely to see you. Hello everybody watching on YouTube. And hello everybody that's going to be watching this and listening to this on the replay. Lovely to see you all. We're going to get going in exactly 1 minute. And we're going to be talking about beware of the pitfalls, the top mistakes even professional speakers make. Because I want to make sure that you are set up to succeed, to win. I want to make sure that whatever happens in your journey to becoming a speaker, whether you're a speaker to sell or you're a speaker to get paid, I want to make sure that you are set up and you don't make these mistakes. So very briefly, just a little bit about me. For those of you meeting me for the first time, of course, you can check out my profile on LinkedIn. But just a little bit about me. I'm an author. I've written 6 books. I'm writing 6 books. I'm writing my 7th. I've done this for over a decade, and that's just a little bit about me. So please understand what I'm sharing with you. I have done, I have learned, I've also trained people, I've watched people, I work with speakers on a regular basis. So please understand this is what I do. So hello, everybody that's joining us. It is midday. I am based in the UK. Give me a thumbs up or a hearts that you can hear me okay. So I just want to make sure that the sound is good. And hello to everybody who's watching on all the other streams. There we go. Lots of thumbs up, lots of hearts. Hey, Jesse, lovely to see you. Annabelle, lovely to see you. Lovely to see everybody. So let's do this. Let's get started. Mistakes. I might get through all 20 today. I'm happy to open up to questions as well. It's not just about me talking. Okay, so if you have a question, I will create the space for it. And then, of course, if you leave a comment, I'll respond later. And of course, if you want to hear anything more about potentially what we do, then just reach out to me, send me a message, whatever channel you choose. But the first mistake I want to talk about, this is a big one, right? And a lot of speakers do this. Very highly established speakers, which surprises me, they do this as well, but equally people starting out. And one of the top mistakes I've seen now, keep in mind, I'm also one of the co-founders of the Speaker Awards. So we've seen over 300 applications this year alone for this year's awards. And one thing that really stood out for me is how people skimp on the quality of their footage they submit, right? And I've seen this again and again with speakers, because what tends to happen is you record a show reel, or maybe you're thinking of recording a show reel. Now, of course, that comes with an investment, comes with a cost, right? So you think, okay, how important is this? How can I make this cost effective? And rightly so. And what I'm seeing is a lot of people either do the editing themselves or they do the filming themselves, which isn't the end of the world filming wise, as long as you have a good phone and a good microphone. But editing is everything when it comes to your show reel, right? So your show reel, for those of you who do or don't know, is your commercial. It's your commercial. So think of it going on TV, and you're spending £1,000 a minute, right? A second, sorry, £1,000 a second, so people can see your best stuff. Now, think if that went on TV and it was low quality, wasn't shot well, what would happen? People would switch off, right? They would switch channels, they'd turn it off, they'd look on their phones. It's the same that happens right here when we're talking about the footage you submit for people to book you to speak. Now, some of you might be paid speakers, some you're learning to speak, right? Some of you on various journeys. But one of the biggest mistakes I see is the skimping on the footage. Now, some of you might be starting out. It's okay to go to a studio and film it there, by the way. It doesn't have to be in front of thousands of people in Wembley or, big stadiums. It can be a well-shot footage in a studio. That's completely acceptable. So I want you to really think about this and not skimp when it comes down to the quality of the footage you submit. Some of the videos we've seen this year on the Speaker Awards have submitted. I'm like, how can someone that takes themselves seriously as a speaker, right, really submit something like that? Now, I get something is better than nothing, but keep in mind that that's your commercial, right? That's your front window. That's the gateway to you getting booked or not. So do you really want to skimp on that? So that's the first thing I want to talk about as well. And again, keep in mind that, if you do like this, there's other ways we can get this to you. I've got a list of these mistakes, so I'm happy to share them with you as well. The other thing I want to talk about when it comes down to footage is forgetting to update it, right? And that's the other side to it. You need to think about, when it comes to footage, to really updating every 6 to 12 months, assuming you're an active speaker. Because what I'm finding now is a lot of people are approaching me about wanting to get back into speaking, right? We've had the last lockdowns, pandemics, energy crisis, whatever it might be, and wherever you are in the world, and people are wanting to get back into it. So I'm like, okay, great news, get back into speaking, woohoo. How's your footage? They're like, oh yeah, it's about 3 years old, it's about 4 years old. Well, the world's moved on, right? We're all aware that this is a very different world. So what you really need to think about is updating it on a regular basis. 6 months, 12 months is probably enough if you're a highly active speaker. If you're not so active, again, 6 to 12 months, because if you're not updating it regularly, again, you become kind of, you're behind, right? You're kind of, you're competing with the speakers that are updating it regularly and they are on trend and they are tropical, right? So that's key here. So I really want you to understand that the other thing, that the mistakes people make is they don't update their show reel on a regular basis. And that again can be the deciding factor between you getting booked or someone else getting booked, is how up to date, how current are you? Thank you for that little heart there. Thank you. Hey, Yinka, how are you? Lovely to see you. Look forward to seeing you in July as well. So keep in mind, having a good quality show reel, number one. Number two, updating it on a regular basis is another thing as well. The other thing I want to talk about, and I know a lot of speakers really rely on this, but this can be a mistake. And our stories are essential. Let me get that straight. I want to be upfront. I want to be straight. Our stories are essential to every speaker out there, right? Whether it's our personal story, our business story, our story of adversity. You might not have a story of adversity. Our stories are essential. But the mistake a lot of speakers make is they over rely on their story. And what do I mean by that? Stories are an incredible part to magnify, to emotively engage, to grab an audience, to uplift, to take them on a journey. But what a lot of speakers do is they become only reliant on their story to be the main event. Now, if you're a motivational, inspirational speaker, by all means, right? That's what you're booked for. But at a certain point, even if you look at the likes of Gary Vee, right, who's been telling the same story for over a decade, he adds layers to it. He adds so many different facets to his story that his story becomes one part of his talk, right? If you think of Gary Vee, he's a thought leadership, really. He's really in thought leadership space, although he's placed in different influencer and this and that. But really, when he speaks of thought leadership. And while he uses his story now, he layers it with lots and lots of lessons, lots and lots of learnings, and he uses the stories from a relatability point of view. What a lot of speakers tend to do, which can be a mistake, is they over rely on the story. Therefore, they're not actually giving anything new, anything substantial, or they think the story is enough, right? And I want you to really understand that story is a part of your talking, of your speaking, of your delivery, but I wouldn't rely on it to be the only or the main thing alone, all right? People want education, they want entertainment, they want emotive connection. People are going to assume you're inspiring and motivating. So while we all have a story and we have stories to share, what you really need to think about is the story enough? Does it have longevity from a booker's point of view, from a bureau's point of view, from an audience point of view, right? And that's what's really, really important here. So I really want you to understand that I'm not saying let's abandon our story, but let's not over rely on it. And that's a mistake a lot of speakers make, because again, stories have an expiry date unless they're added to, unless they're pulled out, unless they're used in various ways. Okay. So those are the first three we've had. Now, remember, I will be opening us to questions or anything like that. So if you do have a question or anything like that, do feel free, of course, to reach out, put your hand out, and I'll gladly answer it I have when it comes down to it, right? So we have had footage. We've had not updating the footage, over reliance on story, right? The other one I want to talk about is, of course, I'm going to talk about this because it's very, very important. I think it's important for every speaker. I think it's important for everybody, whether you're a speaker to sell or you're a speaker to get paid or you're an expert that speaks, which is what I specialize in. Regardless of it, I think what happens is with a lot of speakers, and I talk to a lot of these speakers a lot. It's okay to get to a certain level where you want to apply your training, where you go, you know what, at this point in my career, I've done enough training, and that's okay, as long as there's an ambition to come back to some sort of training. And I'll give you a great example. So Jazz, who was Speaker of the Year last year at the Speaker Awards, incredible speaker, by the way, incredible. Check her out, right? She's turned to me recently and said, Elliot, can I have feedback on my keynote? Now, keep in mind that Jazz charges anything between 5 to 20K, right? speaking. She said, Elliot, can I have some feedback on my recent keynote? Now, I have worked with her on it, on her structure. And I was sat there and I was watching it, and I said, of course you can have feedback. And she said the thing that blew me away, by the way. She said, she's like, Elliot watching you speak is like Beyonce watching you dance. I was like, oh my God, that blew my mind. Now, this is a woman that charges a lot. She's booked a lot and she's asking for feedback, which means Jazz understands the importance of continuous investment in growth. This is someone that could sit back, right? She's at that level. She could sit back and do nothing, right? But she's hungry to be that best, to be better. If you think of someone like Les Brown, who still analyzes his talks, right? He'll listen back because he knows it's about the millimeters, about the inches, it's about those little bits and bobs, right? So what I want you to understand is, regardless of the level you are, it's okay to pause and apply, right? But you have to not neglect your training. And that's another mistake a lot of speakers make, is they neglect the training. They don't reinvest. They get to that level, go, well, I'm established enough now. And actually, if you want to really stand out and be at that level that's above other speakers, not because you're better or worse, just because you want to be a better for yourself, you've got to continuously improve and continuously look at training. So what I'm inviting you to do is not neglect regular training, right? Just like me, I'm a runner. I love running, right? I run all the time. And I changed my training plans. I could get to that point going, you know, I'm comfortable with my running, but I continuously looking to improve. Whether it's the millisecond. I'm not a great runner, by the way, and that's not me putting me down. I'm just not a great runner, but I still strive to be better. I speak all the time. I'm a speaker. I'm a speaker trainer. I'm a speaker coach. Right. Last week I did an event for a law firm. Great gig, right? What could I do better? How can I improve it? But not in the self-deprecating deprecating kind of way. Not in the self where you're beating yourself over your head and going, oh my God, I'm so bad. It's like, okay, I did that. What can I do better? Not in the way that beats yourself over the head. Give me a heart or a thumbs up if you're with me, people. Lovely to see so many people in the room. Hello. I'm seeing lots of hearts there from Yinka. I'm seeing from, how to say it? Ankita. And I'm seeing it from Gia Lily. Hey, Jesse, Andre. Oh, loads of love going on. Of course, if you're watching online, feel free to drop me a comment as well, because I will respond. So the next mistake, I know today's all about mistakes, right? Because that's what the theme of today is, because I want to make sure that you're not leaving money on the table. I want to make sure that you are not doing these mistakes so you can go out there and massively make an impact and, of course, be a great speaker. Now, if anything is speaking to you, if any of these are speaking to you, just feel free to reach out to me, send me a message. And of course, you know, follow me. I do these on a regular basis. Every 2 weeks, they work out now. So if you want to find out about the next one, just make sure you're following me or add me as a friend. Let's have that conversation. Right. Moving on. Right. Let's talk about poor definition of niches. What do I mean? Now, a lot of you are probably like, well, yeah, that's so obvious, Elliot. I mean, everyone talks about niching in, niching down, True. Excuse me. The truth is, the speaking world, whether there be conference organizers, whether it be event organizers, whether it be seminars, whether it be virtual events, right? The truth is, the speaking world does look to box you in, period. It's an industry that goes, I have this slot. I need a speaker to do this for the audience. So if you're very general, inspirational speaker, motivational speaker, you know, if there's no real, what we would call, if you're not being more giraffe, if you're not standing out, well, how do they choose? They'll either choose by price, right? Because someone's cheaper than you, or they feel they're more cost effective, or they'll go for that someone that fits the bill. And the way to fit the bill is to really niche yourself as a speaker. Now, you can be niched in the sense of your expertise, right? So my thing is right now unlocking executive presence, and I really help experts stand out in the field and be more giraffe. And I tend to focus on the expert field. You can niche down in that respect. For example, some of my clients, they work with, I think Jesse here, he works on mental health with IT professionals, right? So you can niche in like that. Some of my clients help people with their chapter 3 of their life, because people are looking to box you in, because people are looking to go, do you fit into that brief that I have? Then that's what you need to appear when it comes to your LinkedIn page, or it comes to your website, or it comes to all of these things. It's important you stand out. I mean, I know so many people that speak about resilience, but you need to stand out in the resilience space. So you can stand out through achievement, i.e., you climbed a mountain with one hand tied behind your back, right? Brilliant. Or you stand out because of the way you position yourself. And believe you me, positioning is a lot easier than climbing a mountain with one hand tied behind your back. I think everyone would agree with that, right? So do you see what I mean? So if you're not niching down, and mistake a lot of speakers make is they simply put public speaker, professional speaker. You're not telling anybody what it is you're speaking about and why to book you. Imagine nobody knows you and you want to get booked. Are you really communicating that message in the most effective manner to get booked? And so it's probably worth reviewing your LinkedIn and reviewing your website and reviewing your footage, going, is this communicating what I needed to communicate in order to get booked? Whether you're paid to speak or whether you're a paid speaker or you're a speaker that sells. Just do that review, please, because that is, again, a key difference. And that's a mistake a lot of speakers make, is they don't differentiate themselves enough. And I really, really call on you, and I want you to differentiate yourselves a lot so you can be that speaker that is more giraffe. All right, we'll do a few more. I'm going to open up for questions, so feel free to put your hand up and ask me any questions you might have. I'll keep going, but I'll do a few more first. I'll get to 10. We're on 4. I'll move a bit faster through these ones. So we talked about, no, we're on 5, by the way. So the next one to talk about, which relates to this as well, is your marketing assets. The mistakes speakers make is they don't, again, invest in the marketing assets, i.e., a bio that's well defined, a website that sells you. We talked about show reels already. If you've just joined us, we talked about the importance of a good show reel, right? And adding on top of marketing is networking, right? Are you networking in the right places? They're going to help you get booked. Are you networking with other speakers who are able to refer you, right? That's where communities are really important. So I really want, again, to think about that. Do you have the assets? Because, again, a lot of people tend to think, I want to be a 5K speaker. I want to be a 10K speaker. Fantastic. Well, do you have the assets and the quality that's needed? I'm not even talking about speaking. I'm talking about from a marketing point of view to be considered, just to be considered, right? If the answer is no, if you're really honest with yourself and the answer is no, then either we need to talk or you need to get help, right? Because if you truly want to play in that space, everything has to reflect your fee. That includes your LinkedIn page, your website, your bio, your one pager, right? All of these are assets that you need to develop. All of those things. Plus, I really want you to think, are you investing time networking in the right spaces? They're going to likely get you those bookings. Which leads me to the next point, which is number 7 so far, is a failure to follow up and build relationships. The amount of time, so we used to do monthly events where we would put speakers on stage, right? And the amount of times people would simply approach me and go, you need to put me on your stage because of this. Or they would go, or I'd get their VA going, oh, you're so lucky that this person wants to speak for you. They're willing to waive their fee, right? Put them on stage. I'm like, no. Very simple. Relationships, right? And the failure to follow up. If you have been approached or you're doing outreach to get booked and someone gets in touch with you or someone refers you, follow up straight away. Don't make it hard. Don't put it off. Because if you think they may be following up with you or reaching out to you, think how many other people they are likely to follow up with. For example, when I got that speaking gig in Birmingham last 2 weeks ago, they were speaking to other speakers, but I responded quickly. I was clear. I had the assets, and I'm not doing this because, like, look at me, I'm so good, but it's about doing the basics. And therefore, they ended up having the conversation with me because I was the first to respond, and then I got the job. That's the point I want to make here. So don't make the mistake of putting off the follow-up or underestimating the importance of follow-up. Don't just go, well, I've sent them my stuff. That's it. No. 2 days later, 3 days later, did you get my stuff, right? Do you have any questions? Is there anything I can answer that might help you make the decision? Don't be a pest, but always follow up, right? The other one I'm going to talk about, and I know this is going to really resonate with some of you before we pause, is not valuing their worth. Now, a big mistake speakers make is they either undersell themselves or don't know how to sell themselves. And what do I mean by that, right? What's really important is knowing when you come to a sales conversation, when someone comes to booking you conversation, that you have a figure in mind, right? Because if you've got the whole, oh, well, how much do you want to pay me? Or, I'm not sure. Can I get back to you? You're telling the person that's ready to make a decision or is likely to make a decision that you don't know. Therefore, you're either not serious or they can knock you down or you're wasting their time. So if you're not sure how to value your worth, there's ways around that. But just think about this. I mean, does a lawyer go, oh, well, I'm not sure how much to charge you? No, they know exactly because they know how much they've spent to become a lawyer. They know the structure, their fee structure. So therefore, they know what to charge. It's the same as a speaker. You spent, I don't know how long becoming the expert in your field, right? Think about how much you've invested and think about what you'd like back. So even if you want to, if you start anything less than £1,000 or dollars, I think you're probably gonna undersell yourself. Period. If you're an expert, if you're just starting out, that's okay because you're shifting, right? It doesn't mean you're starting out from nothing. It means you're adding speaking to your repertoire, right? So therefore, all the work you've done is still worthwhile. It's still got merit. Please don't underestimate. Like, oh, I'm just starting out as a speaker. No, you've been studying for 5, 10 years. You've become an expert for a reason. Charge for that, right? Just come with a number: £1,000, £2,000, $3,000, $5,000. They might knock you back. They might offer you more, but just please don't understand your value. Because if you don't do that, again, they will go with that person that can name their price with certainty, right? And that person that can name their price with certainty tends to be able to have that conversation, right? Two more things, and let's open up for questions because I'd love to hear what you would like to ask. So, lack of clarity in terms of a call to action. What are the next steps? What are the timelines? All of those bits and bobs are really important when it comes down to getting booked. This is a mistake a lot of speakers do, which I talked about following up. Not putting a date in the diary. Can I call you in 2 days? Can you let me know in a certain period of time? What's the next steps? All these bits and bobs, have them ready. And then last one, of course, I just want to delve into before I go into the next mistakes and open up the floor for any questions you might have, is forgetting to ask for testimonials. A huge mistake. The moment you finish a talk, not the moment you finish, come off stage, can have a testimonial, but let the dust settle. Ask for testimonials, right? Because social proof, people saying how good you are is worth so much more than you saying how good you are. Of course, you're going to say how good you are, right? You're going to say how good you are because that's you. But other people going, oh my God, this person blew me away. The audience loved them. Oh my God, da, 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 da. That is, and again, a lot of speakers forget that whole asking for testimonials, right? So I'm going to pause there. I'm going to open up the floor to any questions or any contributions you might have. Of course, if you've got any comments or anything like that, then just feel free to, either leave them below, put them, send me a message, whatever it might be. But I'm opening up the floor now for any questions you might have. This is your chance to ask me a question if you want to, because let's do this, people. So, who has a question? And if you don't have a question right now, that's okay because I've got lots of other things, but I'd love to hear from you. And of course, if you're watching this on replay in any way, then then I'm more than happy to take questions later on. Now, if any of this resonates with you, then feel free to reach out to me. Ask me questions. Let's have a call. I've got various courses and things like that I offer, that I do. So do make sure that you reach out and let's have a conversation about how I can help you get booked. Have a talk that really has an impact or anything like that, because I would love to support you in any way possible right now, and that's okay. So let's carry on with some of the mistakes. You guys are just, Gia. Hey, Gia Lily. Let me just let you speak. There we go. Hey, Gia, lovely to see you. What is your question? Need to unmute yourself. Lovely to see you. Beautiful picture, by the way. So, what is? Hello. Hey, lovely to see you as always. Yes, me too. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Good. That is a great question. So the question basically is if you're not getting paid, or even if you are, what are the parameters? What can you ask for, right? So I would say as a basic, if you're not getting paid, the basic is you should be asking for a testimonial. That's the basic. You should be asking absolutely if it can be filmed. If you and if they're not filming, you bring someone that can film it. If they're not taking photographs, can you bring someone who can? But also, what I would say is I would premise it and go, well, this time I'm willing to do it at discount or low cost. But next time, when there's budget, I would like to, be considered to be paid. So that's what the way I would approach that. And what you're raising here, Gia Lily, is a really good point that there's always a commercial opportunity, right? So, paid can often raise profile. There's a lot we can do around that. Raise profile, open doors. You can also say, look, um, after the talk, I'd like to discuss potentially some of the services that I offer. So could we arrange that as you're not paying me? So there's ways to be commercial around things without it being a direct payment. Because of course there's gonna be lots of situations where you find yourself um, not being paid, right? And in today's modern day, you need to be a hybrid speaker. That's what I believe. Anyway, there are speakers like, no, 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 it's all about getting paid. Won't speak without getting paid. Fair enough. Kudos. Obviously, there's speakers that only speak to sell. I know a lot of people like that, but I think these days you need to be a hybrid. I'm a hybrid. I get paid to speak. I get paid very handsomely. But equally, when someone comes to me and offers me a speaking opportunity, I'm more than happy to go, yes, can I do X, Y, Z? Can I have a testimonial? Can I use the footage? Right? Can I sell? And that's what and I do have two very distinct talks for that as well. So that's how I would address that, if that makes sense, dear Lily. Brilliant. Feel free to stick on stage. Keep me warm. Give me a virtual hug as we're here. So I'll carry on then. Brilliant. Woohoo! Yes, it's going to be fun, fun, fun. Awesome. By the way, for everybody hearing about the Speaker Awards, the 7th of July in the UK, depending when you're listening to this and hearing this. So if you want to find out more information, again, drop me a message. I'm more than happy to let you know. We've got Yinka there who's shortlisted, and many other people. And again, we're doing a day conference as well. So you're very welcome to join us for that, where we're talking about various aspects of getting paid to speak, raising your profile, all these things. And I'm going to talk about the difference between a keynote and signature talk, right? So let's go through some of the other mistakes I know that happen. Leave money on the table, and again, we'll take any questions at the end. So the next one to talk about is, of course, neglecting customize to be agile when it comes to your speaking, right? There are some people who are like, here's my keynote, and that's all I do, and this is the way I do it, and that's okay if you've carved yourself out a lane as a speaker and you own that lane, and that's all you do. Great. Again, but if I did my keynote to the legal audience that I was speaking in front of a few weeks ago, then it wouldn't have landed in the way I wanted it to, because it's a different audience to your typical expert audience I speak in front of, right? So make sure you can customize your speeches, make sure that you are agile and you're able to do that. Part of your fee reflects that. The next mistake I want to talk about is not having the online solid presence, right? Not having a presence online. There's a lot of speakers that still aren't churning out content that sells them as speakers, right? And that's essential part of your marketing. It's the kind of content you put out, it's the variety of content you put out, and it's the consistency of the content you put out. Make sure you're doing that. This is more when it comes to delivery, is being unprepared with technical issues, right? So the challenge with that is when things go wrong, if you can't handle that, then it's gonna show that you aren't quite the speaker that you've sold yourself as, and people can actually either ask for a refund or people can actually not pay you, etc., etc. So make sure you're prepared for technical issues. The last thing is, this goes back to when we're training and investing in ourselves as speakers, underestimating our ability and the use of our stage presence, because a lot of speakers just can get comfortable, and so they're relying on the past deliveries to deliver this current delivery. And what I want you to understand is this continuous growth as a speaker, and actually how important things like your charisma, your body language, your tonality needs continuous work on it, right? Never underestimating the importance of those things. A lot of speakers just get comfortable, so let's not be comfortable, right? Overuse of jargon is another big one. Do not overuse jargon. That is just it just alienates the audience, right? And of course, not using good visuals. Your slides don't reflect your ability as a speaker. They don't reflect your brand. All these things massively are mistakes a lot of speakers make. They're just not clean. They're not crisp. The images might be pixelated. Those are some of the issues that a lot of speakers haven't addressed yet. They haven't caught up with the time, the importance of visuals matching your ability as a speaker. The other thing, of course, is relying too much on the visuals and not, if you're a speaker, you're a speaker. Your slides are an aid, right? They help the presentation. They don't dominate the presentation. They're not the main reason for the presentation. And I want you to understand that it's very important because a lot of people turn and they're just looking at the presentation and they're reading out the slides. If I wanted that, I'd watch it on YouTube, or I would say, "Look, just give me a pack of the slides, and I'll walk away and read them." You're a speaker. You're on stage, right? You've got to deliver. You've got to speak. For example, part of the technical issues is that if the slides go down, can you still deliver the talk? The answer should always be yes, by the way. But if the answer is no, there's supervision needs to be done, right? A few more to go, right? This is again when it comes to delivery. A lot of speakers like, I'm a speaker, I don't like questions. Well, actually, questions are a gateway to connection with the audience. They're a great way to actually elevate your expertise. So, managing the audience is a great reflection of your ability as a speaker. Now, a lot of speakers haven't trained in that, they do facilitation. Therefore, actually what happens is they actually discredit themselves. So make sure you've done room facilitation training. Make sure you've done question handling training. I do this with a lot of people. I work with people on Dragon's Den and people on MasterChef Professionals, right? A lot of the stuff we worked on is how they manage the questions, how they manage the feedback, right? So that's important. And of course, on that note, feedback, right? Always wanting that feedback to improve, to be better is essential. So that's the other thing as well. And the last thing I want to talk about, which is a mistake before we answer this, before I take more questions or we wrap this up, is the failure to think of yourself as a brand, right? So the other day, again, someone reached out to me. I want more speaking opportunities. I want to get paid to speak. And I looked what space they were in. And I'm like, the problem is you're not differentiating. You're not a brand. You're you don't have an identity as a speaker. So if you think of, there's hundreds of bands out there, right? Bands, as in musicians and their bands. The ones that tend to stand out are the ones that think of themselves as a brand. The ones that think of them brand think about the community, the following, the look, the logo, all these things. Same as the speakers, you need to really know what your identity is.